Alright, what is going on, guys? It's Raul here. We are back with another coverage video. This is the 2024 West Coast Disc Golf Huntington Beach Christmas Classic. It is just the HB course, played twice in the all shorts with one extra hole. And we got our feature card here: Steve Key, Gavin Boss, Lewis Bitney, Cam Rico, and Chris Skameka. Should be a good card. Alright, hole one. A very short par 3, as most of them are on this layout, but this one is, I think, less than 200 feet. A little backhand turnover, or typically a little forehand chip shot. Steve throws the backhand turnover nice. Gavin's going to be going through to the sidearm. Hangs it a little bit wide. That's the tree you either want to go inside or outside of. He gets it outside and should be around circle's edge or just inside. Lewis puts it a little bit higher to allow it to swing and beat that tree on the inside, and does so nicely. Looks like Cam Rico is also going to be throwing a sidearm. Puts it nice and high. Probably going to come up a little bit short, so going to have a nice little tester putt to start off the round, even if it's like 20 feet. Those are always good to begin the round with. Chris throws a nice inside shot. Looks like he clips something inside and just kind of gets knocked down, so he's going to have a little tester putt as well. Steve goes a little long, bangs a really good 28-30 footer to start off the round, so he's going to get under par. Chris also has about 28-29 feet and just barely misses it high off the band, goes a little bit long there. Gavin actually a little bit inside the circle, probably around 27 or so. Really good way to start off your round. Also Cam Rico with a little bit of a tester, about 20 feet or so, looking to start his round with a birdie for sure. And boom, really solid putt there. And Lewis Bitney is going to be right behind the tree here, about 20 feet or so. It looks like the tree's in his way, but it's not really. It's just the camera angle I'm at kind of blocks him with that tree, but was able to hit a clean putt, and then Chris cleans up his putt for par. So pretty good work there. Everyone getting birdies, and then Chris getting the par. Moving on to hole 2, just a dead. The pin is dead straight, but most of these guys are going to be throwing off to the right. Although it is out of bounds, they're going to try to put it a little bit high, either on a spike angle or just kind of a pushing angle like Steve did. Throws a straight Cayman, really good there. Gavin's taking an overstable fairway and just putting it a little bit higher. Looking to spike it on the basket. What you don't want to do is land it left like he did, because then it kind of gets that roll. A lot of the time, it's a very steep angle, and if you get moving up the hill, then you're probably going to get moving down it too. So you really want to land it right. Lewis looks like he's doing a good job at that. Plays it a bit right, but looks to be a little bit long, so he's going to have some work coming back. But he didn't roll, so pretty good shot. Cam also going with the high spike angle, just trying to push it a little bit more right than Gavin, and looks to do so, kind of landing it on the flat opposed to the left side. Chris going with that play as well. He says it's probably going a little bit long, and it looks like it did. So yeah, Chris is going to have about 40 feet here. See if he can hit a nice one on hole 2. And yeah, gives it honestly a pretty good bid, because the green's really fast, so he's able to control that distance on the comebacker. Lewis also putting a really good bid on it, but just comes up a little bit short. This plays uphill because it's also on the slope, so you have to give it the height, and it's a little early in the morning, so the hands are cold, and it's just early in the round too, so it can be hard to do that. And Gavin misses a little low as well. Steve with about 10-15 feet or so should be able to clean this up. Yep, there you go. Good start, 2 for 2. Cam with the 2 for 2 as well. And Chris tapping his par. Yeah, like I said, this is a very short layout, so getting that 2 for 2 start is important. It's not necessary, but you want to get as many birdies as you can, and just keep that ball rolling in a tournament like this. So hole 3, just another Pretty much dead straight shot, but this one you actually do want to throw it dead straight. Ideally, you want to throw the backhand up that left side of the path and get a smooth straight skip forward. Steve just kicks right and then rolls down the hill. Pretty common. Like what Cam's doing here is pretty good, but I'm a little worried because it's hitting higher up on the hill. Yeah, and it gets a little bit of a roll. Looks to have a putt down there, but you really want to land it soft, like in the middle or the right side of the path. Gavin looks like he's doing this well. Yeah, see, he kind of hits a little bit lower on that left hillside and just gets kind of the push forward, opposed to if you land higher, then you have a higher chance at rolling. Lewis throwing a little flex shot here. Looks to have maybe skipped up there for a putt, but he hit early and then definitely got a little bit of a forward slide. Chris throws a pretty good shot, but gets a kick right. Steve has a little shot. This is pretty tricky shot. You can either try to throw it up there or just kind of pitch it up to that hillside and hit a putt. That's probably what I would do. But if you have that shot, then you could do it. Chris just kind of leaking a sidearm, hits the tree. Going to have a long comebacker for the par. Lewis with the framed up putt. Boom. Let's go. That's a great putt, Lewis. Outside the circle uphiller. Definitely feels good to get. And Cam, really good bid too. That's a good sit. A lot of those putts that hit that back hill will kind of get back and roll backwards. You see a lot of people taking big numbers just from putting a bunch on this hole. See, that's a good sit too. It almost wanted to start rolling. Gavin tapping in his birdie. And then the boys just cleaning up some pars here. Good little putt there. And then just some tap-ins for Chris and Cam here. All right, hole 5 or hole 4. It might look like a turnover hole because the slope of the hill and the basket is kind of in the middle of the hill. Gavin does so nicely, but you can really just throw it straight into the hill and get a skip up. If you throw a forehand, you kind of want to be a little bit more inside like Lewis, but probably a little bit straighter. But if you pull the forehand left, then it tends to just skip up the hill, opposed to the backhand like this. Steve puts a little turn on it, and then it kind of gets, kicked down to the right. Whereas if you just throw it straight, it's just going to skip up and right. So I am a fan of that play. Cam plays it a little bit higher on the hill, so it gets the skip to the basket. But yeah, you really just want to throw something straight and then get the skip up and right. The more you turn it, the more it's going to want to filter down the hill. So Chris pitches up. He kind of kicked into the woods. Lewis has a long putt. Boom, another putt. Great putting already from Lewis. And then Steve's got about 30 feet or so. Let's see if he can hit. Good one, just barely off. It's super uphill, so it's not uncommon to miss low here. Cam taps in his birdie, and then Chris gonna tap in the par. Gavin gonna get a birdie, and Steve tapping the par as well. Hole 5, Gavin got the box here. He's just going to be throwing a overstable fairway driver into the hill, looking to get a big skip up the hill, which he did. And then some people throw mid, some people throw a putter. Looks like Lewis is throwing an overstable putter into the hillside. Actually, maybe that was a fairway driver too with that big skip. And Cam is throwing a flippy putter on like a hyzer flip line. Kind of gets squeaky through the trees there, but he's going to have a putt. Steve throwing straight at the basket, almost getting an ace run right at it. And then Chris going to be throwing, I think, a Raptor or maybe a Buzz, and filtering through that gap as well, just going way long. He probably threw a Raptor. He's going to have a putt down the hill, but he does have that little backstop to hold him. Not too far if he misses, which he did. So he should have a little comebacker. Cam hits a really nice putt, capitalizes on that little kind of squeaky line. And then Steve, good birdie there. And Lewis, about 15 feet or so, just up the hill. Nice little putt with weird footing. Gavin tapping in. And then Chris is going to have kind of an odd little comebacker with those limbs in the way. Oh, just pulls it. Going to have to take a bogey there. Gets 2 over, so he's going to have to start getting a lot of birdies if he wants to get in the mix here. Gavin throwing a good shot. This hole's pretty simple. You just hit the gap with an overstable driver, and if you do that, you should be inside the circle. So Lewis, say he hit the gap and he pulled it, but he should still be in the circle, kind of long and right of the pin. Cam squeaks through the tree. Probably going to be a little bit inside. Hopefully doesn't get a super big skip down the hill, because that can happen too. Steve, dead center of the gap, should be really good. And you could see it got the skip there too. Chris, overstable driver. Just barely hits that tree, kicks down. Kind of filters through. Going to have a long putt. See if he can connect on a long one here. Not quite going to be right up there for his par, though. Lewis with another kind of circle's edge putt. Boom. Super solid putting, just kind of jamming him in there. Super unique putt, nose up and just really spinny. Gavin getting his birdie. And Cam from about the same distance as Gavin, about 20 feet or so. Really taking his time, making sure he's got a confident stroke and just puts it right in the center. And yep, Steve hit the center of the gap, and look at that, tap-in birdie. All right. Hole 7. I think this hole's about 270 or so. You want to just take a stable mid, either throw it on hyzer or take a overstable putter and throw a flex shot down the middle. Really just kind of dealer's choice. You just want to get under these tree limbs and kind of scoot up there to the left, and then hit a good putt. It can be hard to park at times because you want to play it right so that way you can get under the tree limbs. And then sometimes if you put it too inside, you can miss the Mando. There's a Mando left on the left tree of the basket. Steve throws the kind of punchy line and gets a good little reaction off the tree there to sit right by the basket. Chris going for the hyzer play. He might even be ace running. He gets a bunch of aces out here at HB, so he might have even been ace running that, but hits the tree. And there you go. Chris connects on a good long putt, about 45 feet or so, to get himself back to 1 over. And here's Gavin with the 28-footer. Comes up a little short. He's usually good for those, so I imagine he'll start connecting on most of those throughout the round. And Lewis with another C2 putt, getting himself to 5 under through 7 holes. Cam, another solid stroke from about 25 or so. And then Steve tapping in his birdie there. All right, hole 8. The basket is right behind those 2 trees. It's really just a sidearm shot. It's a backhand shot if your sidearm is not good, but even most people without a sidearm will try their luck with the sidearm here. But there is a backhand line. You could see those 2 pull it off to the left, giving them a little bit more work than you want. Steve throwing that straight Cayman, sticking with that thing, and pures a backhand straight line. Chris also throwing a backhand shot. Kind of a similar line, but a straighter disc, so it's going to go a little bit longer with that flip up. And Gavin also throwing a backhand. As I talk about it being a forehand hole, looks to be pretty good flipping towards the basket. He doesn't like it. He knows it's going to hit that tree, and it does. But he'll still have a pretty solid putt at it. Here's Cam from about 45, 50 or so. Yeah, probably about 50. This is about 20 feet outside the circle. And freaking hearts it. That's a great putt, Cam. Look at him run that thing in there. All right, now Lewis from about 10 feet inside of him, looking to not get big putted. And connects on another one, gets hyped and runs it in as well. Good little battle going on here. They're both 6 down through 8. And here's Gavin looking to not lose one from some long putts. And just comes up a little bit short again. Definitely not used to that. He usually putts very hard, and if he misses, it's usually not short. So I'm assuming he should start getting those up and hitting some longer putts. But tapping in his par for now. Steve getting that birdie, and Chris tapping in the par as well. Hole 9. It's going to be pretty much a dead straight shot. I like to throw a straight Luna. Some people will throw a sidearm. Some people will throw kind of a hyzer flip on the right-hand side. But it's really just a dead straight shot, about 300 feet or so. Cam throws a flippy mid. Looks to be thrown a little bit too hard. There's a Mando on the right side, and Cam misses it right. So he's going to have a putt for the par, but definitely not a hole you want to bogey on. You don't want to take any bogeys out here, but this is a hole you really want to birdie, as it's just wide open. Steve throws a pretty good shot, comes up a little bit short. Chris looks to have pulled that, but gets a good kick left. Probably going to be just outside the circle. Gavin playing the hyzer with a stable disc, slightly stable disc here. I really like that play because it's never going to miss the Mando, and it's always just hyzering out at the basket. As long as you miss that tree on the right, you're typically going to have a pretty solid putt. Here's Cam from the drop zone. Like I said, he has a chance for par. Just pumps it a little bit long. Going to have some work, about 20, 25 feet or so for the bogey, but he has been pretty solid from that range so far. Here's Steve from a little bit inside of the drop zone. Just comes up a little bit short and right. Going to have some work as well for the par. Here's Chris to get back to even. There you go. Good putt. Get back to even. Give yourself a fresh slate on the back 9. Gavin hits his putt there. Steve makes a good comebacker for the par. And Cam surprisingly pulling it off to the right. Haven't seen that from him all around. And cleans it up. Gets back on track with a good putt there. Going to take a double bogey though. Definitely and obviously not what you want. So hole 10. Now Lewis has 2 strokes on Cam. And he's going to, or 3 strokes actually on Cam, 2 on Steve and 2 on Gavin. And throws another good shot there. Chris looking to get back on track and get some birdies. Gets a good flip up on this. I think that is his buzz. Just goes a little bit long of the basket, but should have a pretty good chance for birdie as long as that tree's not right in his way. Gavin throwing his overstable Badger. Lands right by the basket, but gets a pretty big skip. There's some kind of dirt patch areas up there, and I imagine he hit one of those. Steve going with the zone. Goes a little bit straight on him, but gets a little bit of skip back. Should be just inside the circle or so. Cam, I think this is like a straight recluse maybe. A beat in over stable mid, so it pushes straight for him, but then fades out. Steve from just outside the circle, I think, actually, and just hits the cage there a little bit low. Going to have to settle for his par. Here's Cam to get back on track after that double bogey. Taking his time, looking to put this one in the heart, and hits another good putt, back on track. Here's Gavin, about 25 feet or so, looking to get another birdie, as he knows Lewis is probably going to, and kind of gets nubbed, kind of was a little bit low, but either way, going to have to take a par. Lewis keeping the train rolling, hits another good putt, and here's Chris for birdie. And just kind of jams that one a little bit too hard and too high, catches some of the band and pops out high center chain, so not going to be happy with that one, but going to have some more opportunities. Lewis throws a good sidearm flex shot. I'm actually surprised to see him do that, as he's very proficient in the backhand. I tend to like the backhand here, going with something flippy like Cam does, kind of drag it over to the right. The forehand gets a little sketchy because you have to flex it, but Lewis did it really well. Chris throwing the backhand shot, but fades it out. Going to be about 30 feet for the par, though, so going to have an opportunity. Gavin throws the mid dead straight, slides it right past the basket. Should be good for that one. I think he should be about 20 feet or so long. Steve going with that straight Cayman again. Just doesn't quite get on it as much as he has been, so it fades out. Going to have a long putt for the par, yeah, about 35 feet or so. And just airballs it right. Gonna have some work on the back end. This is a very fast green. It's all dirt and short grass. Chris makes good on that par putt. That's good. You don't want to take any more bogey strokes, being at even through 10. Cam is gonna have another birdie putt and hits it about 30 feet. He's putting really well this round. Here's Steve for a comebacker for his bogey. And jams it, gets it in there. Not happy with how it came out, but it stuck. And there's Gavin for the birdie from about 15, 20 or so. So he's getting rolling. He's 7 down, but still a few back from Lewis. Hole 12 is a short par 3. It's just left of those 2 trees you can see straight out. Lewis just throwing a hyzer shot with the overstable putter. Should be inside the circle. Cam, I think going with that straight recluse. I think that's what that is, but I'm not 100% sure. Slides it up and parks it. It's kind of good to keep it inside on this hole so you don't risk hitting those trees because the second one, or the closer one to us, is outside the circle. Gavin does it well, puts it to a little bit short and left maybe. Chris throwing the fairway driver. Ooh, ace runs it. Definitely was trying to ace run it there if he's throwing a fairway driver. Steve snapping his zone straight. Just throwing it a little bit too straight or too flat. Either way, he's outside the circle on a hole you don't want to be outside the circle on. But he does still have a putt and just chains out a little bit left. Chris, about 28 feet or so. Also chains out left. This is not one you want to miss. I know I've said that a few times, but this one's super straightforward. Lewis also hitting the cage there and not picking up his birdie, so Gavin definitely wants to connect here. And, yeah, good putt there for the birdie. Cam's also going to be tapping in the birdie, so grabbing one back on Lewis. Boys tapping in their par, hole 13. It's just down this hill. You want to play a hyzer. You really want your disc to go in between these first trees and the second set of trees. You want to play like an overstable mid or zone or something like that where you can swing it right and then it's going to fade in left. The further you push it straight and right, the higher chance you have at hitting one of those trees and kicking right and being far from the basket. So you kind of want to put it right, but then swing in early. Chris just throws a fairway driver and gets a big skip early on the hill, so he's for sure going to be OB unless he got super lucky. Steve does the play that I'm talking about where you push it right but then fade in just short of this second grouping of trees. Gavin pushed it way too straight and just had a long putt for the birdie, but not a great shot there. Chris with the long putt for par, just leaking it a little bit left. And Lewis with the birdie chance. I like him from this range and just barely misses it left. Pretty good bid, though, from that spot. Cam going to be about 28 feet. Keep the ball rolling. I think he's been perfect after that double bogey, so lit some fuel in him. The boys just cleaning up their pars here, letting Cam and Steve get one back on them. So hole 14, kind of an interesting hole. It's very short to the point where you want to ace run it, but right behind it, it's death. And if you put it long, then you have a comebacker that's going to go straight down the hill. So all these guys are just pretty much laying up into the hill. Looks like Steve threw maybe a little bit of a cheeky ace run with the putter turnover, but still put it short. But these guys are really just trying to get their birdie and get out of here. Chris might be trying to ace run it as well. Definitely looks like he is a little bit, but fades out and still going to have a pretty solid birdie putt. Lewis just hits the putt before I can get the camera rolling, but he gets his birdie. These are kind of tough putts, though. Cam, he's got about 15, 20 feet, but it's up on the hill on a high rise, and you really just can't miss this birdie, so it puts a little bit of added pressure. Gavin with the same thing. Nice little putt there. And Chris is up on the hill, so he's got a little bit more of an advantage, not being as high. Squeaks it over, and Steve tapping in his birdie. So there you go. First star frame of the round, I believe. Hole 15, double Mando hole. You just want to hit the gap with something straight to stable. Cam comes up a little bit early, but it's still going to be a decent putt at it. Steve just throwing it a little bit too low. It was on a perfect line, but was just a little bit too low out of the hand to begin with. Gavin getting some more air under it and putting it a little bit left. Gets a nice little chuck skip. Should be about 20, 25 feet or so. Lewis going with the overstable flex line. Not a bad play because you do want to put it off to the right and gets a good skip to the basket. That should be well inside the circle. Chris looked to be a decent line because I know that was his straight buzz, but just clips one of those low ceiling branches. So going to have a little upshot for the par. Throws a good shot there. Going to get up and down, but definitely wanted a birdie putt. Steve with a long look at the birdie, but definitely a chance here. I like Steve for these long putts with this super spinny, kind of just dead straight laser beam putts. These definitely go in sometimes. And I definitely thought that thing was in, but just leaks it a little bit to the right. Gonna have some work to do, though. Cam with another solid stroke. Just puts it high on the band, but definitely confident on that one. Lewis with another good birdie putt. Going to get himself to 12 down. Steve, a little bit of meat on the bone. 20, 25 feet or so. Definitely want to knock this one down. Yep, puts it in the center. Gavin, another birdie putt. Yep, about 15 feet or so. Solid birdie there. Gavin's a HB local, so he's played all these holes a million times, so he knows where he wants to land. It's all just about executing. Throws a good hyzer shot there with his nuke. Skipping right at the basket, but just goes a little bit long, so gonna have some work to do, but should be inside the circle. Lewis also going with the hyzer. Looks to be a straight to stable distance driver. Just gets super unlucky hitting that tree that's planted out there. So he's going to have a long putt when that probably would have skipped well inside the circle, I bet. Cam throwing a wide hyzer with his Halo Wraith, I believe, to inside the circle. Should be around 28 feet, just long. Steve likes to club down here, throw I think this is like a straight Firebird. It's either a straight Firebird or an Eagle. Either way, he likes to throw it hard and just off to the right and drift it in on a nice slow fading line, opposed to this big distance driver swinging line. Chris throws that really well, super wide, and almost ace runs it actually. Chris has got a bunch of power, and like I said earlier, he aces all the time, so he likes those big distance driver and fairway driver shots where he can skip it or throw a big hyzer at the basket. Lewis just leaking it a little bit left. It was a long putt, so it was kind of a long shot there. Here's Gavin. I think he's inside the circle, just inside about 30 feet or so. Wants to knock this one down and get one on Lewis. And just leaves it a little bit short again. Kind of a uncharacteristic miss from Gavin that we've seen a few times today. And Steve just jams it, but just a little bit low and left and doesn't connect. That low left likes to catch on a soft putt, but hard it kind of bounces out sometimes. So not going to be happy with that. Cam from about 20 feet with a good putt, and Chris gets a good birdie there. And tap in pars from the boys. It's a longer hole, but they definitely wanted to get the birdie there. Super straightforward hole here. Almost too straightforward sometimes. It gets you second guessing with what to throw or how wide to take it. But you just want to throw an overstable fairway driver wide. Even a mid distance driver. It's really, you could throw whatever you want. Just gauge your distance. The grass is pretty grabby up there, so you're not getting crazy skips. So that's what they're all doing, throwing the wide hyzer. They all seem to do it pretty well. Should be inside the circle. Gavin looks to be parked there. Steve doing the same thing, putting it a little bit wider there. Should be inside the circle. And actually gets a really good skip to parked. Lewis, that's actually an overstable putter and just leaks it a little bit. That's what I mean. It's easy to leak, and then that left side, for some reason, tends to be a little bit skippier and can kind of push you off to that path or sometimes even into those bushes. So Lewis has a lot longer putt than he wanted here and almost makes it. Definitely thought he made it, but just slips out of the left side there, I think. Chris has about 30 feet. And just a little bit low. Kind of looked like he leaned over it a little bit too much, so never was able to get the height. Oh my gosh, Cam. Dancing on the rim, but gets the birdie. He knows it's lucky. He's going to show the basket some love there. And Lewis tapping in his par. And that's Chris's par, and Steve's tapping birdie. All right. Moving on to 18, we got a Mando on the right side and a Mando on the left side. So you really just want to throw an overstable disc that hyzer's inside of that, or just a dead straight shot. A lot of people throw a sidearm, but we got a very backhand dominant card on this feature card. Gavin knows he misses it, throws the destroyer too wide, and not going to be happy about that. So Steve's probably going to try to make an adjustment. Yeah, doesn't even try to start it too wide. Gets a really funky skip, though. That was actually a good shot. Just gets a funky skip. Going to have a longer putt than he really should have. Chris going with the straight to turn line. I actually like this shot because it kind of takes the Mandos out of play. You throw it left and turn it off of that left Mando. And he looks to have done that pretty well. Should be up there in the circle. Lewis going with kind of the straight shot. He throws that stable putter on a little flex line. Maybe just looking to kind of get lucky, or maybe he was trying to put it more left and pulled it a little bit. Either way, going to have a long putt. Gavin kind of giving it a long bid from the drop zone, but going to be tapping in a bogey. Lewis with the long birdie putt. Oh, no, that was brutal. That was worse than I thought it was in person. That was in the basket and kind of cuts through the chains. That was such a good putt. He's been all over it from circle 2 this round. Steve, oh, there you go. That's a great putt. About 50 feet, maybe 45 feet, but that's what I'm talking about. That dead, straight spin putt right in the heart of the chains the whole time. Cam connecting on another good birdie. He's been on a streak. Gavin tapping his bogey. And this is Chris's birdie, actually. He threw that turnover shot, went a little long, and Lewis is going to tap in his par. Last hole, hole 19. This is a temp hole. Throwing down to behind hole 2's tee pad. OB right, so you want to throw something stable. Cam's disc just hangs on. Pretty much going to be tapping in his birdie with the way he's been putting this round. Steve looking to do the same thing. Just throw it down into the ground and get a skip. Gets a pretty good skip. Going to be about 15 feet or so. Chris looking to do the same thing. Just keeps it a little bit high out of the hand and catches a lot of that tree limb, so he's going to have a long putt, definitely longer than you want, but a birdie putt nonetheless. Lewis going to be throwing that same overstable putter and gets a pretty big skip, actually. Skips by the basket, going to be, I think, outside the circle long. Gavin also getting a big skip, almost skipping over or into the basket. Here's Chris's long birdie putt. Ooh, really good bid, actually. Just a little bit short. I almost thought it was in. I think Lewis is outside the circle here, looking to stay one stroke back of Cam and connects on a good birdie putt with OB right behind. If he misses that, it's probably going OB. So really good connection there. Gavin taps in his putt. And Steve for the birdie. I think that just connected on the nub and just bounced it straight out. So he's going to shoot 9 down. And Cam is going to shoot a 14 down with a double bogey. That is an insane round, just birdieing pretty much everything. Super hot with the putter and just on point with his drives. So here's the leaderboard after round 1. It's a two round tournament. So we got Cam Rico, Lewis Bitney, Drake Avila on the lead card for round 2. Gavin Voss and Steve Key is going to take the lead card privilege over Tyler and Reed, just with the higher PDGA number. But that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in round 2.